Welcome, everyone in the United States, Canada, and around the world to another episode of It's a Wrap with Rap, the podcast of overcomers and useful information to better our daily life and mental well being. I am your host, Ron Rapaport. I would like to thank all our listeners, our viewers on our YouTube channel, It's a Wrap with Rap, the podcast uncut, and our sponsors and supporters for making this podcast such a success. Besides being heard on all major platforms, the podcast may also be accessed from our website, it's a wrapwithrap.com, where you can find all the episodes, previews of future episodes, and unique products and services offered from our sponsors, as well as the podcast Book Nook, showcasing many of the books and trailers of the books our guests have authored that can be purchased on Amazon. My guest today is Benjamin Shrader. For a little over 5 years, Benjamin Shrader, the CEO of Shrader Promotions, has been orchestrating some of the top events in College Station, Houston, Austin, and San Marcos, Texas. His unique leadership style and unorthodox organizational structure have led to bookings, successful bookings, I might add, with incredible artists such as Lady Gaga, G-EAZY, Fetty Wap, and more. Ben is also an internet influencer. Described as charismatic and enigmatic, Ben has had to overcome many struggles throughout his life. He has incredibly severe dyslexia, tested to be among the severest 1 percentile of all people with dyslexia, and today only reading at a sixth grade level. Ben has spoken extensively about dyslexia and is doing charity work with the International Dyslexia Association and has been a keynote speaker at their conferences. Ben was diagnosed with a life-threatening golf ball-sized brain tumor at the height of his business success, leading to permanent deafness in one ear. He is here today with us to discuss dyslexia and give everyone, especially other dyslexics, all 780 million in the world, inspiration to pursue greatness despite the road being hard. As Ben says, we will walk it together. Welcome from Austin, Texas, United States, Ben Shrader to the podcast. Welcome, Ben.
Hello, my friends. Thank you so much for having me. And my apologies. I think a part of my bio I need to update. It has been 8 years now, uh, almost 9 years that I have been running Shrader Promotions. So thank you so much for having me, and I'm very excited to talk with
Well, we're
you.
glad to have you, Ben. We're very
Very
happy to have
passionate
you.
about it.
It's an honor. Now, before we start talking about dyslexia and all that, I understand you attended the Trump rally in Butler, Pennsylvania last summer and was invited to meet President Trump. Can you please tell us about your experience that fateful day?
Yes, yes, that was quite something, quite something. Through my event production work, I had come to meet a few of the people on the campaign, and I had pestered and pestered them because who would not love to meet, any president?
Yeah,
I mean, that is a really cool thing.
sure.
And, eventually, I believe they had pitched me to the special guest committee, brain tumor survivor, my background, and I got approved. And I remember I found out 2 or 3 days before the rally for the event. And I sent my information, very detailed. I had to send, driver's license number, all these type of things to the Secret Service so that I could get approved uh, to meet the former president at the time. I went down to Butler, Pennsylvania. I remember going there, and it was incredible. I mean, Secret Service came, took me back. I was a special guest of the campaign. I had a nameplate on my seat. I
Wow.
mean, it was just a really cool experience.
Yeah.
And meeting, the former president, now the current president, was amazing. And he was actually, people sometimes think that Trump may be it might be a little scary. And I was incredibly nervous, but he was very, very nice. And I think that he could tell that I was nervous. And I remember he was saying, like, it's a big deal today. Okay, come here, come here. Very nice. And I had a few moments to talk with him. And I said a couple things, and he was very gracious, and he seemed to be having a good time, and seemed in great health, seemed like he was having fun.
Yeah.
Really one of the greatest honors of my life. And myself, yes, I am more conservative politically, but even looking at it from a political point of view, it's an honor to meet any of our world leaders, and it's
Sure.
something that I would do with any world leader.
Absolutely.
And I remember leaving the backstage, and you could see, I mean, there were dozens, I'd say maybe 2 dozen, 24, either Secret Service or Homeland Security people clad in full body armor, helmet, rifles, fully decked out. And I will also say this, and this is something that I've said. I've done numerous interviews on this with Fox News, Fox Nation, many local outlets. I know talked to CNN, talked to me about doing interviews. That MSNBC as well. I thought security was tight.
Yeah.
I was not, it's what you would expect, that there were tons of Secret Service agents, there was tons of police, tons of Homeland Security. I I personally felt that it was pretty tight. And I know for the special guests, I mean, the level of information I had to give into this secure government browser that like popped up and took over my whole screen, that they knew everything about me. Well, I remember coming out and a Secret Service agent, and crazy enough, I believe, and now I can't verify this 100% just with my own memory and such. The woman Secret Service agent in one of the photos with him, I believe, is the one that brought me out and back to my seat. And I sat down, I was like, whoa. And I had told all my friends that I was going on a secret mission, and I started posting about it, texting people. I was like, look at this. Because they used your phone for one of the pictures and then their own DSLR for another picture. And so I was so happy, overjoyed. About 30 minutes later, Trump comes out and he's given a rally. It's a classic rally. Everybody's very excited, having a good time. And then I remember hearing pop, 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 a whistling sound.
Yeah.
And I know what a gunshot sounds like. I I instantly ducked, and I turned and I looked behind me. And what still to this day gives me pause and still just, I'm grateful to God to be alive. It gives me a shock. We were seated, if you were looking directly at the stage, we were right on the left. Behind us were the stands where, attendees were viewing from. Mr. Compensatore, who was hit in the head while shielding his family, was 10 feet behind me.
Wow.
And I remember turning around, and it was bad. It was, the movies don't do it justice. When someone is shot, it is bad. And it was just red. And I remember seeing people, I could only see really his torso, the lower torso and legs, but I remember there was so much blood. And I instantly turned back, and at this point, I'm a little lower to the ground, and I see Trump hold up his fist.
Yeah.
And I remember right when the pop, pop, pop happened, he, did the slight duck motion that you can see on the video. I remember seeing him hold up his fist, and at that point, I'm only about 20, 30 tops feet from the stage because we're in the special guest section. We are literally right there.
Yeah.
And I did not see any blood on him at that point, and I did not think he'd been hit. I thought he got out completely unscathed. I thought this was, it was a failed assassination attempt, but I thought that he didn't even get hit. And I would only later find out that people in the crowd were saying he got shot. People in the crowd were saying that he got killed. People in the crowd were saying that he was totally fine. A lot of people originally also thought it was fireworks, that someone had snuck fireworks in. And I remember screaming, shooter, 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 and tell, like, get down, get down. About I'd say 5 to 10 minutes later, a Secret Service agent came around and told us all, "Okay, follow me. We gotta go this way, or come with me." I forget exactly what they said, and we went to the fence line, and they let us. They were leading us out, and I remember looking at the building where the shooter came from,
Yeah.
and I saw what I thought was a Secret Service agent, soldier, lying down. And I would later find out that was the body of the shooter because that building was swarming with agents.
Yeah.
It was, I'm grateful to God to be alive. I'm grateful to God that, President Trump's alive. I abhor political violence. I think that, that's a terrible thing for any democracy.
Yeah.
And it could have been so much worse, but God bless Mr. Mentore's family. They, I'm confident, suffer deeply, but he died a hero, shielding his family.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're so glad you're here, uh, alive, safe, and in being able to just relay what you've been through because it's just so rare, that something like that terrible thing happens and you just happen to be on the podcast and I wanted our audience to hear it because it's just unbelievable what you went through and what the president went through. And hopefully it will never happen again. So,
Amen. And
yeah.
I think it shows a lot about a person when you literally get shot and stand back up and hold up your fist.
Yeah,
That
absolutely.
that
Yeah.
type of thing you can't fake.
No, that's
I,
she's the real deal. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
He's the real deal. And like you said, unless like you said, the TV doesn't do it justice, you know.
It really doesn't. And the feeling. I remember when a situation is I make a not about this, but about other situations, I make a joke with my friends. When everyone else is calm, I panic. When everyone else panics, I'm calm.
Yeah,
I remember the moment that I knew those are gunshots, that I went like cold and I was like, become smallest target possible, get out of the area. I need to stay out of the way of the professionals. I'm not armed, there's nothing I can do. Is anybody close enough to help? Nope. Because, Mr. Mentore people were all around him. And yeah, no, that was quite a day. Texted my family, active shooter on ground, not hit. Texted my fiance, the same thing. She wasn't my fiance at the time, but if I die, you're the best girl ever. And she thought in my text messages with my dyslexia, they were kind of incoherent. Since I couldn't use voice to text, she thought that I had been hit. And
oh
she
no.
was freaking out, trying to find a way to get a plane to Pennsylvania. But it was quite a day. And I really commend a person who's become my friend, John David. He is the mayor of Slippery Rock, Pennsylvania. That the
Yeah,
moment the shooting happened, he's a veteran. He jumped on top of his pregnant sister and his wife. He jumped on top of them, and he actually helped carry a woman who had passed out during it to the medical tent. So
yeah,
really a very good guy.
yeah, yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that with us. I just, like I said, I wanted the audience to hear it. And anyway, let's get back to the topic at hand.
My
Uh,
apologies for taking so long.
no, 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 that's quite all right. It's something that doesn't happen every day, and it's just a rare event. And like I said, hopefully we never have to hear about that again.
Amen.
Uh, So, getting back to the topic at hand, the podcast is about overcoming. We like to give people out there that are struggling, no matter what they're struggling with, uh, hope and inspiration. And you are just the fella to do that. So, at age 5, our podcast guest and author, Kelly Tuttle, neurology nurse practitioner, has written a book titled After the Crash: How to Keep Your Job, Stay in School, and Live Life After a Brain Injury. The book covers the important topic of brain injury. It is estimated that between 3.2 and 5.3 million people in the United States alone live with a disability caused by a traumatic brain injury, which is probably a low estimate because only those hospitalized are counted. 2.8 million people in the United States sustain a traumatic brain injury yearly. This book is for everyone to read as we are all at risk of sustaining a head injury from crashing our car, playing sports, having an object strike our heads, brawling, being exposed to a blast in the military, and many other numerous ways. We all need to arm ourselves with knowledge on this subject so we know what to do if this type of injury occurs in our lives and the lives of our loved ones. Knowledge is power, and this type of injury is nothing to ignore. It can be deadly. Kelly never imagined a routine drive would leave her grappling with a traumatic brain injury that would change every aspect of her life. Based on her own recovery experiences and evidence based insights, Kelly shares strategic steps that will help the patient keep working, learning, and living your life as your brain and body heal. With honesty and empathy, this book is an indispensable guide for anyone battling the emotional, physical, and cognitive struggles of traumatic brain injury, including memory fog, chronic fatigue, emotional outbursts, and loss of identity. Gain valuable recovery methods and learn the brain trauma recovery stages, the invisible effects of traumatic brain injury, how to identify often overlooked symptoms, how to choose a healthcare provider to deal with head injuries, how to communicate effectively with doctors, strategies to manage overstimulation, how to rebuild your sense of self through mindfulness, lifestyle changes, and the courage to embrace a different future, healing one step at a time. Blending relatable storytelling with neuroscience research after the crash is the perfect resource for anyone needing help from recovery from a traumatic brain injury. Whether you are a traumatic brain injury survivor, caregiver, or someone seeking answers, get actionable advice and support to live life fully again by reading this book. The book After the Crash: How to Keep Your Job, Stay in School, and Live Life After a Brain Injury is available in paperback, Kindle, and audiobook formats from Amazon. Details will be listed in the podcast notes or by clicking the link provided in this announcement. You're diagnosed with severe dyslexia, and your family has told you that you would never be able to learn to read, and there's no cure for it. So, what ensued for you after that news that the family broke and their reaction and their plan for you?
One thing I will say is my family was always very, uh, they did not tell me I was never going to read. It was the uh, diagnostician, the person or the reading therapist,
Okay, okay,
who diagnosed me was saying that that he's got it so severe
yeah,
that I will probably never meet anyone in my entire lifetime who has as severe dyslexia as I do. And I got the big three. I got dyslexia, extremely, extremely severe. Dyscalculia and dysgraphia, both of those being severe, bad with writing and bad with math.
right.
And my I commend my parents. They are great people and they really made a lot of sacrifices. They did a lot for me. Um, they put me immediately in where the kindergarten I was at, they put me in reading therapy. And, um, it is very important. And this is something I'll tell any dyslexic, any parent of a dyslexic, get the reading therapy as early and as much as possible. I went 4 days a week for 9 years just to get to, excuse me, just to get to fifth grade, sixth grade reading level, just to get to that, enough to get around town, as my mom would say, enough to survive. They, over time, saw that, I think the school had said to them that, they did not have the ability to help me as much as I needed. And they suggested homeschooling. So my parents, especially my mother, homeschooled me from kindergarten to eighth grade. I went to quote unquote, regular high school from ninth grade to the rest of high school. It was something at the time. I hated it at the time because I'm a talker. You'd never guess. I love talking to people. And it's the
Yeah.
one thing I can do. It's the one skill that my dad always encouraged me to double down on it. Practice public speaking, practice speaking. Don't
Sure.
say don't uh, do things like that. And my mother really put her whole life, after I was born, into raising me, educating me, and very dedicated to teaching me and taking me to reading therapy, finding different tutors. And it was not until I found an older lady who was a retired teacher, Mrs. Prim, a saint of a woman, um, just beyond amazing, who used the Orton-Gillingham program. I believe they call it the Orton-Gillingham approach, something along those lines. Whatever it was, I couldn't read the thing on the box. So it was
Yeah.
the original dyslexia program. And the reason I like it so much more than Scottish Rite, than some of the other programs that are out there, is because it was so simple. It had little flashcards. A apple B bat C cat D dog duh. I remember them to this day, where I learned the letters and then I just started memorizing words or sounding things out. That's how I read. And if it's not a word I've seen before, I'm gonna have a lot of trouble with it. But I was very angry when I was young about it. And I'm very grateful now that I had that reading therapy, and I'm extremely grateful that I was homeschooled because it prepared me for life. And I went to ninth grade better educated than a lot of people.
Yeah, I
But when
bet.
I was young, I was extremely angry about it.
So, just for our audience's benefit, dyslexia is pretty much when you see words, it's like us who don't know Chinese seeing a bunch of Chinese words and we can't understand what we're looking at.
I love the way you describe it, and that is how I describe it. That is perfect. It is like looking at a foreign language.
Okay.
Like I could tell you that those are different characters in
Yeah,
Chinese. I could tell you that's a different character, that's a different character. I just can't put it together. And
sure.
it is so frustrating because you feel like there's something missing. And dyslexics, and speaking on hope, dyslexics are just as smart as other people. We have the same number of neural net connections. They are just distributed differently. So I got about half the average on one side, but I got about, double on the other.
Yeah,
So that is something to keep in mind. But yes, that is the perfect way to describe it. It's not really 3D. It's not really flipping. There's not any of that.
right.
And anyone who says, you can put special glasses on and fix it is a charlatan because it's not an eye problem.
It doesn't work. Okay. Now,
The way you describe it is perfect.
dyscalculia is where math, again,
It's
becomes an issue.
yes,
And dysphagia
dysgraphia.
is that
That's
difficult to
trouble with
swallow?
handwriting.
Oh, trouble with handwriting.
Yes,
Okay.
my writing to this day is chicken scratch. That was one, as a kindergarten teacher, called it rather meanly, but that's one thing. I had 4 or 5 years of occupational therapy,
Yeah.
and they got it enough. I can write my name. I can write enough when I need to, but if I have to write, I usually use voice to text on my phone, and then I very slowly copy it. Often I just make my assistant write though, so that's the benefits of having a business.
Yeah. Now, these three conditions, how we know they affected your schooling, and you said you were pretty much angry about it. But how did they affect your friendships and your family dynamics?
I think when I was young, and I've gotten much better about this as I've gotten older, but when I was young, I was a very jealous person. no matter how well things went, no matter if I was able to do really good on something. I did a lot of environmental work when I was young, talking about invasive species. I spoke at the U.S. Botanical Gardens, at the Lady Johnson Wildflower Center, because my dad was helping me double down on what I was good at. And no matter how well all of those things went, I would see another kid, a friend of mine, reading Harry Potter, and I was so jealous that he could just pick that up and read it. I
Yeah.
watched the movies so I could act like I'd read them, but that was tough, and it did make me. I I was overall a good kid. I wasn't disrespectful. I never vandalized things. I wasn't like a reprobate. I wasn't, problematic, but I was often difficult, and I definitely was um, angry just because I felt so different. I felt like I was so left out because I couldn't do the thing that everybody else takes for granted. That I, it broke my heart then. And to this day, it's still, it can be hard sometimes. I'm putting on a show with 6,000 people having a great time. Everything's going amazing. And out of my suit jacket, I pull the list of the next artist coming up, and I'm reading it, and I cannot tell at all what it says. And I remember grabbing a sound stage hand and saying, like, okay, who's coming up next?
Right.
Just it it made me very angry and sad when I was young. And that was, as you can imagine, that'd be hard in any family.
Sure.
But I was still close with my parents. They've done so much for me, and I'm very close with them in adulthood. I appreciate all that they've done, and I would say mostly not upset about it anymore, about being dyslexic. I see it as making me who I am, and without it, I think I would have
Well,
turned out to be an absolute jerk.
and that's what we say on this podcast a lot. Instead of asking why me, start asking why is this happening for me, and looking at it that way through
Amen.
that
It's the
lens.
forge that makes us who we are, and the pain and the struggles either break us or make us better. And if we're able to overcome them, then we're better for it.
Now, I know you said you were homeschooled, then you went to traditional high school. What was that experience like? Because you're going from that, from your mother's teaching you, and now you're going into traditional high school, and again, you have the reading issue. So what was that like? What adversity did you face there?
Well, you know how you think, you always think the grass is greener on the other side.
Yeah.
Now, I had a few co-ops and things like that, and my mother had hired, I believe it was around middle school, she had hired with a few other mothers, a math and science former teacher to teach us and really help us. Very much not an unschooler type, like very much regimented education. Um, Now, I really thought when I went to high school, the grass was going to be greener on the other side. I thought it was going to be like a Disney Channel movie, like a High School Musical, where
Yeah.
everyone got along, everyone treated each other with respect, and everyone was friends. And even that mean jock at the end of the day would come around. It was not that way at all.
Reality set in.
What was that?
Reality set in.
Reality hit me like a cinder block. It was not great. I hated high school, if I am being honest. I was the weird kid who talked too much and got overexcited about weird political and history things. Um, it was a very tough time for me. Jokingly, in Chinese history, they have something they call the Century of Humiliation. I call the high school time the decade of humiliation. I was very embarrassed. I remember being taken out of class to take my tests in the learning center, and other kids snickering and laughing as I had to go to this special containment area for dyslexics. And it was a tough time, and only towards the very end, I had a current events club where I would talk and I made friends, but it it was a very difficult time for me, probably one of the most difficult times, just because I felt very isolated. And my parents were great. They stood by me, they encouraged me, supported me. But it was a time I'm glad I will never have to repeat, and one that I do not look on fondly. And I don't even fully blame the schools. They really were not. There are a few places that are capable or prepared, especially back then, to help students with very severe dyslexia. There are more places today that are more well equipped, but it was tough. College was amazing, but high
Was
school, if you're in high school with dyslexia, it gets better, my friend. So just tough it out.
was was going to traditional high school y- uh based on your idea or your parents' idea or
Completely me. I had wanted to go to regular school
okay.
for years.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
I honestly, no matter how many co-ops I went to or anything, I was, I guess, a little lonely.
Well,
I wanted to be
you
around
thought it
other
was one
kids.
thing and it turns out to be
I
another.
wanted to socialize and talk with everyone and,
Yeah.
do
And
our song and dance routine. But
right. Right. Uh okay, moving on. And you touched on this a little bit, but do people believe that dyslexics are not smart, number one, and what other myths are out there about dyslexics?
it breaks my heart if and when people believe dyslexics are not intelligent. With dyslexia, as we talked about just previously, it's the same number of neural net connections. And the latest studies are showing that it is the old version of the brain, that it is the old version of the brain when we did not have writing, when we did not have reading, we didn't have arithmetic, that dyslexics were people who could talk, who could remember things very well, and who would stay up late at night, that this was what we were in our hunter-gatherer times, that we were an integral part of our tribe, that we were an integral part of our society. And as things changed and reading, writing became a thing, there were some brains that could not do that nearly as well. And it breaks my heart. And the way that people will write off dyslexics as dumb or lazy. I remember so many times teachers and things like that thought that I was faking it. And what I would tell them is, why would I want to fake this? I
Exactly.
find it humiliating when you call on me in class and I can't read what's on the board. I mean, why would I fake that? And I think that in our conversation, or in a conversation that myself or many other dyslexics could have with anyone, that it's easy to demonstrate that we're just as smart as anybody else, that it's not something that affects intelligence, but it is something that affects the way we learn. That is why I always call it a learning difference and not a disability, though I am happy it was recently reclassified by the government as, I believe, an actual type of disability, which will mean that dyslexics do get more help in schools, which I think is a very good thing.
Yeah, and I'm glad we're talking to you because this topic is just not talked about that much. And people out there listening to this are learning a lot from you. And quite
Thank you.
frankly, I didn't know a whole lot about it. I've heard the word. I really didn't know any dyslexics to my knowledge. So talking to
One
you,
in every five people. So you
yeah,
probably know a few. It's just that for a lot of people, it is not that severe. And also something that kind of comes under the banner of neural diversity, which I I guess it's good
To all patients and caregivers out there, Rare Patient Voice, a supporter of the It's a Wrap with Rap podcast, is paying for your input. Patients 16 years and older and caregivers, family, and friends of any disability, disorder, syndrome, illness, or condition have the opportunity to express their opinions through surveys and interviews to improve medical products and services. Who knows your journey better than you? Rare Patient Voice puts you in touch with researchers who are developing products and services that can help you and others with your condition. These researchers need input of patients to develop products and services that have a significant impact on patients' lives. Over the past 9 years, Rare Patient Voice has paid patients over $10 million. When you join Rare Patient Voice, you may be invited to participate in interviews, surveys, or online communities where you will share your insights. Rare Patient Voice has hundreds of studies running at any time, so there are many opportunities to participate. You will earn $120 per hour or $2 a minute, depending on the length of the survey, for participating in these studies. By making your voice heard, you are a catalyst for change. Rest assured, your input will be used to help other patients like you. There is no cost at all for you to participate. You can get more information and sign up by clicking the link in the sponsor's notes of this podcast or the link provided in this announcement.
That us dyslexics are getting classified with that, though I'm not sure. We are neurodivergent in a sense, but I'm not sure if such a broad term is as helpful as just dyslexia, because we don't understand the brain well. That's just fact.
Yeah,
And what a lot of people believe, scientists, researchers, and myself included, is that dyslexia is an incredibly broad brush term for many different types of learning differences that we just all classify as dyslexia. Whatever I have is very different than the person who's able to just have some trouble with reading but learn it eventually.
yeah,
And that's, I think, the big thing, that a lot of people just survive with dyslexia. They might have really bad grades, but they get by. And uh, there was a study a good few years ago, about 10 years ago, that found that dyslexics either do very well in life, having families, succeeding, or they end up in prison. And
wow,
that there's no happy medium.
wow. That's a big gap. Uh, so can you tell us what technological advances have been developed today to help people with dyslexia?
Yes, yes. Well, this is something I love talking about, and I know you mentioned books earlier, and I have. It's all still secret, but there'll be a book coming out, and I have to sign
Ah,
the deal and everything. But it'll be coming out, and I'll let you know whenever it does. I'll
yeah, we'll
send you
talk
a
about
copy.
that. Okay.
Um, Technology is a godsend to my kind, as I jokingly say, as Magneto said to the mutants. Join me, fight together in a brotherhood of our kind. Um, Technology is a godsend. When I was a child, all that I had was something called a Victor Reader, with an SD card loaded with things from the Reading for the Blind and Dyslexic. Now, Reading for the Blind Dyslexic, back then they were incredible. Thank God for them. All my textbooks, all the Percy Jackson books, it's a dyslexic protagonist, all the Percy Jackson books I wanted to read, I could hold that little Victor Reader, and it would box that looked like a really big phone, and it would read to me. And you had to manually guide through it with keys, but it was difficult to use. You needed SD cards. My dad would help me load them. A whole rigmarole.
Yeah,
Then we got the iPhone,
yeah,
and I have to say I love Apple for this. The way that they integrated voice to text, because the key for dyslexics is finding technology that is widely adopted by the general population and repurposing that for us. So voice to text, text to speech, things that some people use for convenience are lifesavers to us. I could not run my company without those two things. The voice to text and the text to speech built into Apple devices. I think you just have to turn the text to speech on, but the voice to text is already built in. That is such a godsend. I mean, back in the day, Dragon Naturally Speaking was really the first text to speech software. And for the time, this is 10, 15 years ago, for the time it was great, but it was not super accurate and it had a lot of difficulties.
Yeah.
Today, I'm able, we were working out the times to meet. All those messages I wrote with voice to text.
Yeah.
And thank God for it. So those are going to be the top two that I say every dyslexic needs. Without those, I don't know how people survived in the past. It would have been very, very hard. Some other technologies that immediately come to mind, I say be very wary of when you see people saying anything with, oh, a magic glasses or a special font or the pen that reads to you. All of those are
Yeah.
either charlatans or people trying to do good, but it just doesn't work. I know at least on iPhones you can now take a picture of text and actually copy it. And if it's a live photo, just screenshot it and then go to your recent photos and you can copy it and have it read to you.
Yeah.
Prismo tried to do that back in the day.
I had that. I used the iPhone in Japan and I could go, I think you can use it worldwide where you can read a foreign language and it comes out in English.
I believe so. So
Yeah.
like it does the same thing for dyslexics.
Yeah.
So I love Apple. I have to say what they've done for dyslexics without even knowing it is crazy. Other technologies, when it comes to AI and things like that, I am very pro AI. Like I have a Chat GPT, the whatever the best one you can buy model named Lazarus that helps me so much. And I thought it was a good name for an AI, like it rose from the dead or something. But hopefully that's not heretical or anything. But um, I'm all for it. However, I caution the dyslexic community that you do want to know how to write with voice to text. Like you don't need to write it or type it. I can't type. I spent so long trying to get the typing down, I can't do it. So I use voice to text, but you do want to know how to write yourself to be able to say, okay, Bill and Sam went on an adventure to Antarctica and yada, yada, yada. So I'm all for using AI, especially to help the dyslexic community, but I don't want all of us to completely rely on it.
Okay.
Other
Now,
technologies, I'd have to think a little more. Forgive me.
okay. So you take advantage of the Texas A&M program offered called Startup Aggie Land. Tell us about that.
That brings back good memories. As as I uh, as I mentioned, I hated high school, but I loved college.
There you go. We're
So
moving
much of
on.
it. Oh, yes, we are moving on to better, bigger, and better things. And
Mhm.
for your audience, if you have anyone who hates high school, just know the mean people peaked and your future is bright.
That's
This
right.
program was incredible and still is to this day. Now it is called the McFerrin Center for Entrepreneurship. Back when I was there, it was the Startup Aggie Land, run by a woman named Shelley Brankman, who was just amazing and did so much for the students. We all lived together in a place called Hullabaloo Hall. The whole fourth floor was everyone from Startup Aggieland, and we all took a class on entrepreneurship together and went to these weekly meetings where we were encouraged to either join student businesses or try to start our own. My first job was being a pitchman for many of the businesses at Startup Aggieland because you have a lot of smart kids there who are very smart but do not want to talk in front of a crowd, especially not in a competition where they have to ask for money. Then you have me. I will ask you for money any day, and I am happy to talk in front of as many people as you can bring me. So that was great. I pitched for tons of different companies all across the country. Really enjoyed that. But when I was in that program, I said, boy, I've always wanted to be known. I have always wanted people to know my name. When I die, if the correct way to spell Shrader is not SCH but SHRADER, I will have succeeded. That I wanted to be very simply popular. I wanted what I had never had, to be popular. So I thought, well, I have no widget, I have no product, I have no idea like that. What do college kids like? Ah, college kids like to party. If I control partying, college kids will like me. And
You can't lose with, I mean, that's a winner. Yeah.
that was the simple deduction behind my entire career.
Yeah.
That was why it got started. In the beginning, so I said, okay, I will promote the parties. I will do that. And then it evolves over time. But in the beginning, it was me going to every single night, going to the bar district, talking to bouncers, talking to managers, talking to whoever would listen to me, talking to owners if I could get a hold of them. And it was on the ground operations, me in a ill-fitting suit. That was my brand, and it still is to this day. I got the St. Patrick's Day tie. Happy St. Patrick's Day to your audience. But
Yeah.
that was my entire brand, was the suit, and that I was there basically begging somebody, let's make a deal. Let's make something happen. I would love to manage your social media and partner with me. I've got 2,000 followers on Instagram and let's do this. That's what it was until one venue gave me a shot, said that I could handle their social media, promote for them, be their, not a CD promoter at all, but mainly an online virtual one. And I took that venue from somewhere that was really not seen as a premier venue to the spot to be. I was able to make that really one of the hottest venues on Northgate, the bar district. And we greatly increased their sales. And then everybody there loved me.
Yeah.
And
Of course, you're bringing in money.
yes, yes. And I really saw that the money was not in promoting the events. No, 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 no. The money was in coordinating the events, specifically concerts. Bar sales across the board are down everywhere because Gen Z does not go out. Gen Z, Gen Alpha do not go out just to drink. They don't go out just on a Friday night, but they will go to an event. They will go to a concert.
Okay.
And so that was the evolution of the business. Was I saw this is where the money's at. This is where the this is where the power is at. This is where the pulse is. So I started slowly partnering with people, then working on it, and then doing my own events. And I started coordinating some of the top events. We did Riff Raff, we did Fetty Wap. These are two famous rappers. We did Parker McCollum, the famous country singer. And through that, I had the opportunity to meet Lady Gaga. It was a great honor. I was contracted by a contractor to help promote a secret event that was a charity event for Hurricane Harvey, where, to my shock, all the presidents were there and Lady Gaga. And afterwards, I was backstage after Secret Service had taken them all away, and Lady Gaga came out, and I just was so nervous. And I said, "Hello, Miss Gaga, can I get a selfie?" And so she laughed and was very nice, and that helped jumpstart my career immensely, because that was really very close to when things first started taking off. And
Wow.
yeah, it was really a grind at the beginning and just a slow rise and expanding to other cities, expanding to other city.
Jen Mitchell Love, a guest on the podcast, attorney and mediator for people divorcing with 19 years of legal experience, founder of Solace Divorce Mediation, a high vibrational, love centered approach to divorce that shifts the process from destruction to empowerment, growth, and healing, has authored her new book, Shine, Soul, Shine 30 Days of Self Discovery and Healing Through Divorce. The book was written to help people move from the darkness of divorce into the light of a roadmap for transformation. Divorce is often seen as the end of a chapter, but what if it is the beginning of something extraordinary? Jen invites you to see this life transition not as a loss, but as a powerful opportunity to rediscover your true self. In this transformative 30-day guide, Jen combines her expertise as a divorce lawyer, mediator, intuitive coach, and advocate for personal growth to help you move through the darkness and rediscover your inner light. With daily reflections, practical exercises, and heartfelt insights, this book offers the tool and inspiration you need to reclaim your sense of self and purpose, heal emotional wounds, and release limiting beliefs. Embrace your unique journey with gratitude and love. Step into a new chapter filled with clarity, confidence, and joy. Whether you are navigating the early stages of divorce or seeking a new foundation for your life, Shine, Soul Shine is your companion for turning pain into power and finding magic in the midst of change. Let this book guide you to a brighter, more authentic version of yourself, one step, one day, one moment at a time. The book, Shine, Soul Shine 30 Days of Self Discovery and Healing, is available in paperback from Amazon. Details about the book will be listed in the podcast notes or provided by clicking the link in this announcement.
Cities, excuse me, and partnering with people there. A friend of mine, his company, it was originally named Big Daddy Party Bus, but now Fetty, a party bus company that's become quite popular. I have to ask him, but they either went public or got bought out, and he's doing very well for himself. So we did a lot together, and I'm very happy for him. And there really are. It's been a glorious ride. It's something I
You
really enjoy.
you never gave up. You never let your disability uh, stop you from anything.
That
What do you,
is the secret.
what do you attribute that to? For the people out there who have
Ah,
who are
yes.
struggling, what do you attribute that to?
No matter what you're struggling with, I think that this is applicable. And I believe part of it, the biggest part of it was my father. He always really encouraged me. He said, Benjamin, you're going to have to work twice as hard as other kids. But if you do, you can succeed. And if you double down on what you're really good at, then you can win, beat anybody out. I think part of it's personality. I have always had a very obstinate, I'm going to fight to the last. When the whistle blows, you got to go over the trench. You got to do what you got to do. And I wanted something. I was going to prove to everyone that I wasn't a loser, that my dyslexia didn't hold me back, that I was going to win just to show them that I could win. And the other part really is a genuine a love and a want to be accepted and part of the world that everyone else always got to be a part of. But I do think I would tell everyone to look inside themselves and say, if there's a fire, and if there's even just a few embers, that to kindle that fire, and not even the fire being a thing of anger or upsetness, but just that want for more, that desire for more, and all you can do is try. There's a quote from a book. It's about humanity's fighting some great threat, and the man says to this council, he says, even if we have to drain our banks and drain our minds, we must try. Not often do you get to see the swerving bus that would end your lives and step out of the way. That you have to try. That is all I can say. And you will feel better about yourself and you will feel happier if you try. It doesn't matter what you have, but if you love something and you can do it, try. And if you fail, I have the solution. Try again.
That's right.
That is the simple, that is all that there is to it.
Right. Good advice. Now, at the height of your business success, you're diagnosed with a golf ball sized brain tumor. It's pushing against your brainstem. Tell us about that time, the surgery, and the effects you still have from that.
I remember the moment I decided to go to the doctor because I was putting on a show with Loud Luxury, a famous DJ group, and my dear friends at Tamo Activo, another company. We were doing a joint show, and it was going great. And the crowd was loving it. I'm in a black suit with a red tie. I've got my cameraman. Doing all my being a bit extra. And I just remember oppression in my ear. And I had the most minor hearing loss. I had 2% hearing loss. And I remember saying, something's wrong. And I felt really bad because I said, you know what? It's probably all this loud music from the events. And I
Yeah,
probably have a
yeah.
little hearing loss. And at my age, I'm 26 now. So I was 23 at the time because it was 3 years ago. 3 years ago, I had the operation, and a year ago, I had radiation. So I said, okay, I'm going to go to the doctor just to get it checked out because I can be paranoid and I was worried about it. And I had started wearing earplugs. I got real high quality earplugs from a great company, Eargasm, a bit of an odd name, but great.
Yeah.
Look them up on Amazon. Great, great, great earplugs. I think I got one shoved in my pocket right now. But uh, I was wearing them, but it was still something was really off. It just
Mm,
felt wrong. And I
yeah.
had been nauseous for most of my life from high school onward, and I did not know that that was a symptom of the tumor that I had. I went into the doctor. I talked with them, yada yada. Got a CT scan. They were like, "Your bones look a little weird. You could have grown that way, so no need to worry. Let's get you an MRI." I get the MRI. Then the day after I got that, we had another big show. And so I'm working, I'm having a good time. I'm enjoying doing what I got to do and putting on concerts and
Yeah.
having crowds, some great videos for the Instagram. This is what I'm thinking. And I get a call from my parents either really early in the morning or late at night. And they kind of call me in a panic. And they're like, Ben, the hospital called us. And they were, because we're your emergency contacts, and they seemed really worried. You call them back. It was at night. That's right. It was late at night. And I remember I did not sleep a wink that night. And I called the hospital first moment that I could, called the doctor's office. And they said, we need you to come in. And I said, okay, when? And they said, we'll take you today. We'll figure it out. Just come in. When they tell you that,
Yeah.
the hospital is so hard to get into and do all these things. When they tell you that, you know that is bad. And thank God that I took an Uber, because I would have been shaken by the end of all. I was shaken by the end of all this. I went to the hospital. Doctor sat me down. He pulled up the MRI and he said, "You have a golf ball sized brain tumor growing off of your hearing nerve, pushing underneath your brain against your brainstem. You are at serious risk of a stroke. If we do not get this out, you will likely only live another 1 to 2 years, and then you'll die of a massive stroke." And then he said, "Okay, we need to schedule, I'm going to send you this place consultation. We got to get this out ASAP." Um, and I remember that this is right when the COVID restrictions were wrapping up.
Oh, yeah.
And so it was still difficult, a lot of things with hospitals and things like that. But I remember sitting right after I got the news, and I kept myself together. But I mean, I was in shock. Um, I was sitting waiting for my Uber. And when I got in the Uber driver was like, how's your day going? And I was like, "I have a golf ball sized brain tumor." And then I broke down crying.
Mm.
Um, I mean, to be 23, I believe I was junior in college. To
Yeah.
For that to happen is just
Well, you're
something.
at you're at that age where you think, you're invincible.
You're invincible.
I mean,
Exactly.
yeah, I mean, I had the same thing happen to me, similar, where I had an MRI. I had a fall previous to that, and I was acting kind of off and was staggering around at times, and went in, went to the doctor, and she said, "We need an MRI right away, like now."
Yeah.
So she got me an MRI. I went down there, I took the MRI, and then I went out to eat after that with my wife, and they let me go, and I get home, the landline's ringing, the cell phones are ringing, and there's doctors on every one of those lines. And I went, wait a minute, this isn't good. I mean, when have you ever gotten it? Three
You
doctors
understand.
on
You understand.
three
Yes. When
different
the
lines.
hospital is desperately trying to get a hold of you,
Yeah,
when
they
usually
said
you're so hard to get a hold of.
you have a subdural hematoma, and the blood is pressing against your skull. You need to get to an emergency room like now. Call 911. And called 911 and the emergency they came, but they wouldn't take me to where I wanted to go, where they had all my records and everything because it was in a different county because we live right on the edge of between two counties. So one of the doctors said, "Are you standing?" And my neighbor's next to me, and he's saying prayers for me. And I'm keeping it together. I said, "I'm standing." He says, "Just get in the car and come down here immediately." And they did. The next morning, they had to drill a hole in my head and relieve the pressure.
You and me both got holes in the head. I
Yeah,
love it.
I'm telling you. So when if anytime three doctors are on the phone, that something's wrong.
God bless you. I
Yeah.
can't
Well,
imagine.
God
That
bless
must have been
you.
terrifying.
Oh. Well, I was fine, believe it or not. I guess I was in shock. I just said get in the car and drive, but she was pretty shaken up. But we got there and, everything worked out. But
Wow.
yeah, crazy.
I mean, to think about that, for me, I had 2 years. For you, you had hours and then
I had
having to
hours. Yeah,
drive.
they
That's
told me
crazy.
if you don't get down here right away,
That's crazy.
you're not going to make it too far. So, yeah. So I can definitely empathize with what you went through.
And for me, the procedure, luckily, I was able to get it out at MD Anderson. They're the best in the world. And
Yeah, we have MD Anderson here, so yeah,
yeah, they have the best tech. They have the best of everything. They are the place to go to.
yeah,
And this one was down in Houston, and they gave me 61 stitches. And for your viewers that are watching, if you look, I
yeah.
have a big scar all the way up and around. I have a couple screws, couple plates in my head. And I remember as I was going under, the doctor asked me, "Do you want your bone back?" And I was like, "What?" And he said, "Do you want us to put the bone back over the hole we're going to make? Or do you want just to leave a hole? The muscles will cover it. It'll be fine." And I'm like,
How do you answer that one?
"I want my bone back." Okay.
I
I'll never
guess.
forget that. I'll never forget that. So yes, that my bone is back and held in with
Yeah.
titanium. So and the recovery was tough. I had to learn how to walk again because I lost a balance nerve. So I
How many
lost
years?
it
How many years ago was that?
3 years ago.
3 years ago. Okay.
So I lost a balance nerve. I lost the hearing nerve, and I'm not even a cochlear candidate. Like I have, there's nothing there to connect.
That's just one ear.
Um,
So you're deaf in one ear?
Completely deaf. I don't even have a hearing nerve, but I got 100% in the other ear.
Oh, good. Good.
So if I ever lose my cell phone, my poor fiance, I don't have directional hearing, so I can't really tell. Surprisingly, being deaf in one ear is not that bad. It was, and I'm not nauseous anymore because my balance nerve being destroyed. I do stumble some, but a year of physical therapy, I can walk around
Yeah.
fine.
Just keep doing
Um,
your balance exercises.
I
You know,
haven't done them for like a month.
you
So
really need to do those
yes, I do. Yes, I
because
do.
uh hitting my head. I actually did a pancake a couple times. That was from some chemo I had, etc. And it doesn't take much to hit your head and have big problems. So
Yeah.
really do your balance exercises.
Yeah. Well, now I'm going to do them after this.
Yeah, take my word for it.
I
Uh,
was very lucky that I didn't have to have any type of chemotherapy. It was a benign tumor called an acoustic neuroma,
yeah.
nerve coating overgrowth tissue. But I did get gamma knife a year ago, and that it was like a Saw movie. Oh my God, you're awake, and they drill a vice to your head, and the cracking sound is it because your skull has some like sack type thing around it, and they have to drill through this. Oh my God.
So
But
they couldn't put you out for that,
no, no, it's for some reason they want you awake, and they basically drill you into a vice on
but you're
what
not in
looks.
pain, are you?
No, no, they well, they numb the area, but I didn't take anything like I didn't take a Valium or anything like that that they've offered. I just took two Tylenol. And I said,
Wow.
I'm going to remember this because it's going to make me stronger. I should have taken that Valium or something, but of course, doctors were offering it.
Yeah.
I remember it. And the worst part, they didn't have a premium Spotify account. So
Yeah.
every couple songs, because you're there for like 2 hours, every couple songs were, we are farmers, hey,
You got commercials.
Lowe's new great deal on washing machines. I knew all the ads after that. MD
Uh,
Anderson is great, 5 stars. They really are. They're the best.
oh yeah. How are things with Schrader Enterprises going today? And tell us a little bit about your advocacy and charity work you're doing with the International Dyslexia Association.
Yes, yes. So Schrader Promotions LLC, my event production company. It's really Schrader Promotions because Schrader Productions was taken by somebody. But it has been, I was so worried. I moved to Austin a year ago, and I had started transitioning operations because I wanted to be close to family, wanted to get back to the city. I'm from Austin originally. I love the city. It's a great place for music. I've done a lot of events here
Yeah.
before moving here, but I wanted to live here again. And I spent a good few months kind of moving operations, getting things ready for to be in Austin because I've got two employees. They're mostly remote, but they do a great job for me. We have meetings over the phone all the time. They were in College Station, but everything that we did was doable over. They mainly operate as assistants, and the other people like DJs, cameramen, sound people are contractors. So I was able to move most of the operations, and I went down to Austin myself. Got a nice apartment in the Domain, and I was so worried that I wouldn't be able to make things happen again, that I wouldn't be able to catch that spark. But I started calling the people I'd worked with out here, started talking to the DJs, started going out to the different venues, started coordinating a few events for some of the Greek organizations. They were some of my best customers in College Station, and then really expanded a focus to what things are currently and for the foreseeable future is mostly corporate clientele. So corporations want full service. That's the great thing about what we offer: full service event production. We will do everything for you. So sound, lighting, stage, artist. We will book the artist. We will book the venue for you. You just give us a budget and give us our cut, and we'll make everything happen. So a lot of corporate clientele, if corporations want a concert at their conference, if they want a concert for happy hour that they're having for their staff, if they're having an event to advertise, a lot of these type of things. And South by Southwest just happened, one of our most profitable times of the year. That's a big technology, music, and film conference in Austin, Texas. Very, very popular. And so we book a ton during that. I think at one day I had 10 different shows going on at the same time at all different spots, which by shows I mean, a band here, a DJ here, not our sort of headline shows with a popular artists,
Yeah,
but still good shows and real of good quality and a good time. So that's been the business, has been doing better than ever. And
great.
I was so nervous. I'm overjoyed. So things have been going great. My wonderful fiance is a saint. She comes to everything with me. She's my number one supporter. And so I appreciate all that
That,
she does. She
that's
really
that's great.
a
Well,
blessing.
I could sit here and talk to you all day, but we do have some time constraints going on. Now, as an overcomer, what words of advice do you have for people with dyslexia and others struggling out there with obstacles in their path, making it difficult for them to be the best version of themselves, or maybe contemplating accepting failure in their lives? What advice can you give them?
Never surrender. Never surrender. And I would say don't accept failure. Don't give up. Don't give in that you can't. There is no other option. If you give up, you fail. If you try and fail, there is no dishonor in that. I would tell my bestest of friend, my good buddy, Colton, if something didn't go well with a girl that he was talking to, I would say, my friend, there is no dishonor in failure, but there is dishonor in not trying.
Right.
That you just have to try. And it's scary, it hurts, but those successes, when you have them, celebrate even the little ones and keep pushing forward. You can do it. Everyone has the fire within them. If they grab it, if they claim it, you can succeed.
And you're a testament to that. Ben, how can people contact you?
Well, one of the best ways is to follow me on Instagram at Benjamin_Shrader. Also, Benjamin Shrader on YouTube. We're going to be really kicking that up a lot. Those are probably the two best ways. I think Ben Shrader on Facebook. I need to figure out how to make that Benjamin Shrader. But it's Shrader. My father would joke that the name is cheaper without the C. So
Uh,
wonderful.
give me that Instagram again.
Benjamin_Shrader. Shrader.
Okay. Now, for those out there listening, we'll have that in the podcast notes. I also have ShraderNation.com.
Yes, yes. The website I like the website, but boy, it's getting a massive overhaul. So you guys are probably some of the last people that will see it as it is because it is, I'll be honest, it's a little out of date. So most of the business comes through word of mouth or Instagram. So the website's about to look great though.
Okay. I want to thank you, Ben, for being on the podcast and sharing your story with us. That is very little discussed about this dyslexia, and I wish you all the success in the world going forward in your endeavors. You're doing amazing things, and you're an inspiration to people facing hardships and proving to them that you can never give up on yourself. Thank you very much for being here, and hopefully, we'll have you back because I know you've got probably a lot of irons in the fire.
Oh, always. Well, thank you so much. And thank you for what you do, encouraging so many people out there.
Well,
I
thank
look
you.
forward to speaking with you again one day soon.
Awesome. Comments and suggestions for the podcast, you can email me at itsarapwithrap@gmail.com. Our Facebook group is It's a Rap with Rap. We have about 2,000 people in there. It's a private group, so if you want to join, just email me and we'll get you in if you're on Facebook. Instagram is at It's a Rap with Rap. Podcast, we're on Twitter or X as it's known, at Rapper, WRAPPER 130. Our website is itsarapwithrap.com, and all the episodes are on YouTube. On our YouTube channel, It's a Rap with Rap, the podcast uncut. So when you see it on YouTube, there's no editing. It's just the real thing. Thanks everyone for listening or viewing. I want everybody to please stay safe out there. And for now, it's a wrap.